Nearly 2.5 years after exiting Nigeria's downstream oil sector, ExxonMobil is weighing the sale of some oil and gas fields in the country. The United States-based oil major recently held talks on the sale of a suite of oil and gas fields in Nigeria as the company focuses on new developments in U.S. shale and Guyana. Now, the potential disposals are expected to include stakes in onshore and offshore fields and could raise up to $3 billion US. The company is one of the largest oil and gas producer in Nigeria with 106 operated platforms. Its oil output in the country reached 225,000 barrels per day in 2017. Let's discuss this. Energy consultant Charles Majomi joins me now via Skype from Abuja. Thank you for joining us, Charles.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Charles, like the report says, like 2.5 years ago, we know of ExxonMobil moving off the downstream sector. NIPCO bought about 60% of their shares. Now we're looking at another selling of like $3 billion of assets. What do you make of this?
Well, first of all, let me give you some context and history. ExxonMobil has been here since 1955. And like you rightly said, their production has peaked at about 200,000 barrels per day. Most significantly, they are 40% shareholders in the Kwaibo field, which produces 550,000 barrels of crude oil, as well as considerable volumes of natural gas liquids and condensates. Now, the drive to divest its assets, and we already know that Exxon has actually been in talks with local players, and in fact, there's some talk about them creating a data center. So the talks, although they've been undercover, have been at a fairly advanced stage. It should be viewed within the strategic context, however, of ExxonMobil wanting to increase its capital drive from $26 billion in 2018 to about $35 billion this year. This capital drive is required to invest in development of shale oil in the United States, as well as in other assets in the Gulf of Mexico, with closer proximity to US markets. I should also add that it's not just Nigeria alone that's losing to this divestment. ExxonMobil is also likely going to divest of assets in Chad, as well as in the Azerbaijan field in Azerbaijan. So you can look at it through the prism of a new dawning reality in the international energy space, where America is becoming energy sufficient to the extent that it's actually becoming an exporter of energy resources. And this is going to offset the delicate market configurations that we had seen earlier.
Charles, are you saying now that, like some analysts have said earlier, that production of shale now could be a threat to Nigeria's oil and gas sector, particularly production of crude, which is our main source of revenue in this part of the world?
I think it's not only a threat to market share from the Nigerian perspective, but it's also a threat to market share from many other countries' perspectives as well. It is a seismic activity when the United States, the biggest buyer of energy resources in the West, suddenly becomes energy independent and all its import terminals become export terminals. So absolutely, it is a threat to the market paradigm that exists currently today. However, let me say that it's not necessarily a bad thing for Nigeria. In fact, this could be interpreted as a clarion call, a wake-up call, that essential wake-up call that the Nigerian people must have to the realities of the global dynamics pertaining to energy production and markets. This is an opportunity, in my view, to understand that the trend is not necessarily good if we're to continue as a single approach economy, merely exporting our crude resources to deficit markets and getting the returns and then spending it. Even the markets like India, who have traditionally been mainstay markets, are now turning towards American crude rather than Nigerian crude oil. Okay, this presents, in my view, an opportunity for Nigeria to understand that its own market is more relevant to its energy security needs than foreign markets, where we are subject to the caprices and the whims of geopolitical factors that have very little to do with our own regional development.
Okay.
It's an opportunity for us to add value to our resources, most notably to gas, which in my view is a more important resource in this day and age than crude oil.
Now, Charles,
I should also add...
Okay, let me let you land.
Yeah, okay. I should also add that a lot of these markets that we depend on, like China and such, are increasingly investing in renewable energy resources. So very soon, unless we are able to change the paradigm in which we operate as an energy nation, we will face considerable headwinds in terms of market share.
Charles, before I let you go, while you're making your position now, I just brought back the issue of petroleum industry bill. It also comes to me that this is a bill that's supposed to help indigenize the sector and bring more investment into Nigeria's oil and gas sector. But we're yet to pass this bill. What do you think about this?
You see, this is another issue, and in many ways, the bill, having languished in the National Assembly for 19 years, while countries like Uganda and Ghana have passed their own version, have discovered oil and gas assets within their territories, is a massive indictment on us and the way we have chosen to pursue the development of our own energy industry. Certainly, the lack of clarity in terms of fiscal clarity, in terms of regulatory clarity, that comes from not having an industry bill suited to the development of your industry has lagged us considerably behind and has actually ended up in lack of investments upstream in our oil and gas assets, and in my view also has contributed to the divestment of major investments and in major corporations.
Charles Majomi, energy consultant, thank you for putting us up to speed and giving insight into this divestment issue, talking about ExxonMobil here in Nigeria.